Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 2 live stream for Prize Picks and Showdown for the American Express. Gonna keep this one brief. I'm dealing with a little bit of a left lung issue. So I had COVID last week and I felt fine. Now I'm not sick anymore, but now I'm having breathing issues with just the left side of my chest. So we're gonna go to the doctor today. If I sound a little bit like short of breath, it's probably why. So I'm gonna be extra concise this time. Just going to bring you guys what you need to know. I'll go over all of your questions and hopefully end this right around the 30 or 40-minute mark. So let's go ahead and get this started. What's going on? We've got Yumin down there. What's going on? Interested to see the ownership? Yeah, me too. Round 2 Showdown. Typically, you see some solid leverage spots, so we'll talk about it. What's going on, Mr. Greg? You're asking for all of the Cam Davis. I have to be there right with you, right? He was at the harder golf course yesterday. Definitely a high birdie percentage player. I'll be right there with you. And feel better? Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I don't even know what's going on. It's kind of weird. It feels like my left lung is smaller than the right side, which obviously, if you can tell, it's probably not a good thing. But we'll get it checked out today. We'll be good. We feel fine. It feels strange, to say the least. Let's hop through these golf courses, though. So stadium course played a lot easier this year than what we're used to seeing. So when you take a look at the breakdown here, stadium course played 2.5 under par. Tournament course played 2.96 under par, and La Quinta played 2.65 under par. This is not what we're used to seeing. Typically, the stadium course is a solid shot harder than La Quinta. It only played 0.15 shots harder this year, and sometimes it's a shot and a half harder than what you see at the Nicklaus course. So this time around, the tour staff clearly wanted to make it an even playing field. The tour official actually came on to ESPN Plus yesterday, early in the day, mentioned just how they wanted to make sure that every player had an even opportunity to have success. And he said, ideally, that all 3 courses should have the same green speeds, should play to right around the same winning score. And that's kind of what we got. Now, it's going to be impossible to make the scoring averages the exact same, but to have them within, like a 0.46 shot spread between the 3 golf courses is as close as we're going to get. So when we try and take a look at what players to target here for tomorrow, I'm going to have the course and the score for every single player up on the Showdown sheet. There's not really one course that I'm targeting, because if you look at the winning scores down here, or I should say the ceiling performances, let's just look at the top 6, right? So of the top 6 scores yesterday, kind of what you'd want in your Draftkings lineup. And I believe you probably couldn't have fit all 6 of these guys into the same lineup, but you could have got really close, right? You probably couldn't play a Montgomery, Rahm, and Burns in the same lineup, but you could at the very least have played 2 out of the 3, and then of course the other 3 value options. But let's look at it. 3 of them played La Quinta, 2 of them were on the stadium course, and only 1 of them was on Nicklaus, right? Of those top 6 finishers. And the Nicklaus course was the quote unquote easiest out of the 3 courses that we had. So for me, I'm not going to be focusing on the Nicklaus course nearly as much as maybe I would have in the past, or that I probably would have expected going into this tournament. I mean, like I said, typically it is a whole shot easier, sometimes a shot and a half easier than what we get at the stadium course. That just wasn't the case this time around. And it's good that we have that knowledge going into round 2. Hopping over to, where is it? Windfinder. Actually, I closed Windfinder. Sorry, boys. I'm a little over the place this morning, but I'll bring up the tab. We'll share our screen. We'll get it up here in about 2 seconds. There we go. Let me share my screen for you guys. All right, here we go. So here's the Windfinder forecast. Let's go to the super forecast. And I don't know, this came up about 2 hours ago. It's a good thing I didn't enter any Prize Pick stuff last night because they were calling for calm weather the entire day. Then I get over here on good old Windfinder, bring up La Quinta. I made sure it's the right spot on the map, by the way, just before anyone asks. By the way, I've done that before. I've used the wrong Windfinder station before, but this one is within a mile of both courses. It's a mile south of the stadium course. It's about a quarter, maybe half a mile west of what you have for PGA West of the Nicklaus course, but they have relatively high winds in the morning. It's 12 to 13 miles an hour of sustained winds. That's like 5 to 6 times higher than what they had yesterday. And then your wind gusts there between 20 to 25 miles an hour. That's nothing to scoff at. That's going to affect play, especially the guys that are going off early. So with the earliest tee times being at right around 8:30 local time, the earlier that you're teeing off, the more and more of this that you're going to play in. So if there's going to be a small little advantage weather-wise to be had here on Friday, it's going to be taking the later tee times. I mean, usually we're trying to target the guys that are going off early. They have the most receptive greens. They also tend to have the most pristine greens, right? They don't have any imperfections on them, that sort of thing. I don't think we're going to see that same sort of effect because the winds do die down as the day goes on. That sort of advantage is going to be counteracted by the disadvantage that they're picking up in terms of the weather. So let's bring up the projections now. Let's talk through just the top level perspective when it comes to this slate, because it's interesting, right? We got 3 courses. I think going into the week, most of us expected to only be playing guys at the Nicklaus or the La Quinta course, but we have a different situation here. So I mentioned not really wanting to target one course over the other, and a lot of it comes down to ownership. Everyone's going to play a John Rahm at the Nicklaus course. Everyone wants to play these guys that are playing at La Quinta. So a Sam Burns who had a really good round one, right? He's going to be relatively chalky. Aaron Wise, Tom Hoagie, all of these sort of players that are on the easiest of the 3 golf courses are getting a solid, let's say 10, maybe 15% bump when it comes to their ownership. So rather than John Rahm probably being closer to like 25, 26% owned, if we weren't dealing with a 3-course setup, he's getting an even larger boost because of that. So some of these guys that are playing on the stadium course, like a Will Zalatoris, for example, let's find a few other ones. A Brian Harmon, if you wanted to get there, he would be extremely low owned, given how he played there in round 1. These are your pivots, right? A JT Poston, if you wanted to get there. And you could say, I'm not playing all the pivots, right? I don't think you have to go out there and force a ton of guys into the stadium course. But if you want to mix in somebody like a Will Zalatoris, a Cameron Young down here that's playing the stadium course, it's going to be a really good way to differentiate yourself from your average slappy, right? That has seen this event over the last 3 years. They know that La Quinta is like by far the easiest course. And I put that in quotes because it's not true, right? It's the second easiest course this year. So leverage that, right? Play some of the guys on the stadium course. 2 of the top 6 finishers yesterday, right? 33% of them were from that golf course. So I'm going to be getting to a Cam Young in bunches. Somebody obviously like a Will Zalatoris. I know somebody before mentioned, where's Cam Davis? He's playing at La Quinta. I like getting to him because, he's at La Quinta, right? He's at the course where people might give him a little bit more attention, but he shot even par, right? He's not going to get a bunch of ownership because of how he looked there in round 1. So, we'll go through a player by player basis here in a second. The general idea is just to take the pivots, right? If somebody's going to be 20% plus owned here, there's 0 shot they're going to be in my player pool. It's a 1-round sample size. It's volatile. And typically, right, all of the chalk is on the players that were playing well in round 1. It's really hard to back that up here for the next day. So that's just the top level perspective. That's the general idea when it comes to round 2 Showdown. I'm willing to take guys on the stadium course to get that leverage. And of course, I'm fading a lot of that chalk. Let's catch up on chat, see what's going on. What's going on, CB? What's going on, Bobcat? Steven says, let's get it. Could not appreciate anymore. I could not agree anymore. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I was reading the next comment. Clay says, appreciate your info. Doubled up last week. Let's get the bag today. Yeah, hopefully for Showdown, we can cash out. Yesterday for Prize Picks, we absolutely smashed. Every fairway prop I gave ended up hitting. The only miss I had was a birdie or better matchup, that's always going to be the case. I freaking hate matchups. There's a reason why I'm off of them. Munoz, I love Munoz. Actually, I played him on Prize Picks today, so we'll talk about him towards the end of the stream, but also like the fact that he's no longer on the stadium course. He was able to make 5 birdies yesterday on the stadium course. So despite only shooting -1, he was posting that birdie production that you're looking for. And if you can clean it up, you're looking at a ceiling round. So yeah, I love Munoz. We'll definitely be talking him up. All right, let's go through this. So, excuse me, guys. All right, so towards the top of the board, Scotty, I'm going right back to him. He had a bogey-free day yesterday, shot 4 under par, only made the 4 birdies. So could do with making a few more putts, which was kind of what we were hoping for going into the week, right? We wanted that hot putter to sustain. And after I saw him miss from right about 2.5 feet on hole number 1, I kind of knew that was gone. It's unfortunate. Hopefully he can turn it around here for round 2, but I'm not counting on it. If you guys didn't see it, he literally had a 2.5-foot birdie putt on hole number 1 and missed it. He yipped it. If that happens, right, you're not going to get a ceiling performance out of a Scotty, but the ball striking was beautiful. Almost all of his birdies were from within 10 feet. He wasn't making any bomb putts yesterday. And if he can go out there, just get 1 or 2 of those to drop, right, not miss the 2.5-footer, he shot 6 under par today, right? He could have gone to 7, 8 under par like a Rahm just by being maybe an average putter. Whereas John Rahm went out there yesterday, it was making everything, Right? He had like 3 or 4 20-footers on his front nine. On the back nine, was able to make a few putts that he's typically not draining. So while John Rahm had everything go right for him yesterday, somebody like Scotty had pretty much everything go wrong. So if the ownership's going to reflect that, people are twice as likely to play a John Rahm as they are a Scotty Scheffler. It's a relatively straightforward pivot for me. Catcher Cantlay, I don't hate, but I also don't love. I can't ever play this guy in Showdown when he's super expensive and he's owned, because people will jump ship on Cantlay like no other player. I mean, if he goes out there today and he shoots only like 1-2 under par, for round 3, we're looking at like a 10% owned Cantlay. People will just, I don't know what it is about Cantlay. If he's playing well, people will ride him like crazy. He'll be 35-40% owned in Showdown. And when he has a terrible round, no one in their right mind would go out there and play a Patrick Cantlay. So I don't hate the play. You can play him if you want to. I'm just going to wait, because I think for Saturday Showdown, especially if he plays poorly today, you could be looking at a super low-owned Cantlay, probably a little bit cheaper too, and that's when I prefer to get to him. So I'm just going to take the wait-and-see approach with Cantlay. Do you like Finau, though? Finau, kind of like a Scheffler, he just couldn't buy a putt for his life. Every time they were showing him putting from 10 to 15 feet, he was just hardly skidding it by the hole. He had 3 lip outs. That's just the ones that I was able to count, right? He wasn't on TV the entire time. So he may have actually had more than 3 lip outs yesterday. But yeah, he's playing alongside a Scheffler. I have no issues starting a lineup with both a Scheffler and a Tony Finau, kind of hoping that they're able to draft off of one each other, that sort of thing. You can definitely make it work when it comes to the price tag and salary as well. We talked about Zalatoris. We talked about Cam Young a little bit. If you're looking for pivot plays in this 9K range, it's just because of the golf course. You can see Tom Kim's lower owned, but I also don't think he's as solid of a Showdown play. So I think it makes sense. But yeah, all 3 of these guys here, Zalatoris, Tom Kim, Cam Young, you're going to be able to get easy leverage to them, playing them in 25 to 30% of your lineups, which I love. They're high upside, high birdie percentage players that, the golf courses aside, like even if the stadium course was playing more difficult, I still think I'd be playing Willie Z and Cam Young at both of these ownership levels. They're high birdie percentage players. I mean, we saw it yesterday, right? Sam Burns, he started out like 7 under through his first 9 holes around the stadium course. If you have your ball striking, if you're keeping it in play, it's a straightforward venue. It's not very long. You have receptive greens. You have pristine carpet-like surfaces over there at the stadium course. I mean, sure, you get out of line, Pete Dye is going to kill you around the green. It's hard to get up and down around a Pete Dye golf course. But for Showdown, we're not hoping that these guys are missing greens to begin with, right? We want them to hit 15, 16 plus greens, and that's their avenue to going out there and cashing that optimal lineup. Going down into this lower 9K, I actually saw a question out of the side of my eye about Sanjay. He's also at the stadium. The issue with Sanjay, I guess, and you can see the ownership, my algorithm doesn't have it going very high up there. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to stick. The only reason I don't have Sanjay in my poll is I'm not so sold on this ownership number. 13.7% just seems a little bit light. I know going into the week, he was a lot lower owned than people expected. I played him in week-long stuff. I played him in, I believe, like 30% of my lineup, so I feel pretty good about that. So yeah, maybe I'm just avoiding him because I do have him in the 4-round contest, but I don't know. I have a feeling that he might be a little bit higher owned than my algorithm is expecting, and you can't play everybody here. So I just prefer Zalatoris and Young, higher birdie or better percentage players than a Sanjay M. And then Tom Kim, his ownership at 11% on the Nicklaus course, like, I don't want to talk about him too much here. He might be one of the better Showdown plays on the entire slate. Like, just we know how hot this guy can get. We've seen him get hot on the greens. We've seen him gain 3-4 strokes putting in a given round. We know the ball striking is going to be there. It's a short enough golf course for Tom Kim. Yeah, we'll stop talking about that. I don't want to steam up his ownership there too much. Let's go into the 8K range. Taylor Montgomery is going to be chalky. I understand if you want to get there, but you guys know my role, right? 20% or plus, and he's getting real close to that 20% mark. Almost going to be an automatic fade. If you wanted to get a ton of leverage, Brian Harman would be your guy, but I'm not a real big fan of his game to begin with. He's not a high birdie percentage player. He's a little bit more conservative, a high par percentage player there with Brian Harman. So I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think he's a good leverage play, but I don't like his playing style. I think he plays a little bit too conservative, a little bit too safe for my liking. Sahith Theegala, I will be getting to. So he's like the one piece of chalk or getting close to chalk in this range that I'm going to be willing to play. He had at 1.5 straight birdies yesterday. He ended up making a par and then making another 3 straight birdies. So he started over par, ended up bringing it to -6 by the end of the day. And anytime you play Showdown, Sahith Theegala is going to be in the player pool. I think we've had this conversation before, but a Sahith Theegala, a Jordan Spieth, a Peter Malnati. Let me just think. Cam Davis is another one of those players, and I'm always playing in Showdown. In 4-run contests, I think a lot of times they're a little bit overrated, but when it comes to just posting birdies, fantasy production, true horsepower to get to maybe a 7-8 under par ceiling, those are the kind of guys you want that are aggressive enough to go out there and actually get to that sort of performance. Because like a Brian Harman, the only way for him to shoot like 8 under par, and he can do it, right? We've seen him do it plenty of times. So I'm not saying that he can't shoot 8 under par. He's done it, right? That'd be silly for me to say that. But when he does so, it's because he gains a bunch with the putter. He's a very conservative iron player. His hitting it's like 15 to 25 feet. And it's when he makes a bunch of those putts that he's capable of going low. Whereas with somebody like a Sahith Theegala, Cam Young, Cameron Davis down here at $8,100, they go low when they're hitting absolute piss missiles, when they're hitting darts to 4 or 5 feet. And they do that more often than somebody goes out there and gains like 5, 6 strokes putting. It's a lot more reasonable to go out there and gain, let's say, 3 or 4 strokes with the irons. So I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Harman, but that's the reasoning behind it. His play style isn't conducive to going super low. Let's catch up on chat. We got Nathan down there. What's going on? Any good vibes on Brendan Todd, says Steven. Let's take a look at the shots gained metrics. So for Brendan Todd, it's always down to the iron play for me. If he's hitting the ball well on approach, I always think he's worth considering. But I don't know how he's playing so well. So let's check on that. So he's -4. You would have to think that he did something with the irons, right? If he got to -4, let's see. Oh, that's right. So he didn't have shots gained metrics because he wasn't on the stadium course, but he did hit 11 out of 14 fairways and hit 17 out of 18 greens. Okay, that's the idea there. Okay, I think you're onto something there, Steven. Let's look at the ownership now. So good old Brendan Todd. Well, he's mid 7K range probably. Yeah, actually lower 7K range. You're getting a good price tag on him. He's playing the stadium course. I think you're onto something there, Steven. I'm not playing him. He's only 3% owned. He's one of those pivot plays that I'd love getting to. Like if you need a low-owned player in this range, I think Todd is definitely worth considering because, we don't have the shots gained, but 17 out of 18 greens, I mean, that's a hell of a job out there. We knew he gained probably at least a stroke or two on the approach yesterday. Yeah, I'm for it, Steven. I think you're onto something there. I wasn't considering it myself, but maybe I should be because the irons had to have been pretty good. Landon says best 2-man. We're going to talk about prize picks later. So make sure to either stop on by here in like 10 minutes. We'll be talking about prize picks or stay here until then. Well, we're talking about DFS right now. G-Win says what to do with Xander. I played him in 4 rounds. So I'll tell you what I'm doing with him. I'm not playing Xander today. I played him in my 4-run contest. I played 35%. I bet him outright, right? I told you guys that for the stream there on Wednesday, which by the way, hopefully it works out because the number I got on him, I got 25-1 on Xander and I put way too much money on it just because I wanted to lock in that value. I'm not going to play him in Showdown just because of that, right? Like if he goes out there and has another great day, then great, right? I'm in the driver's seat when it comes to both the outrights and DFS. But if he has a poor day today, right, I don't want to double down on it because he still has the back issue. He's still sore. I mean, he told us that on the interview there on Wednesday. So I don't know. I think he could go out there and suck today. I think that's well within his range of outcomes. But obviously, I hope he has a good day because if he does, I'm going to be in a pretty good spot. And Dot says, any good fairway hits? Not really. So they bumped the entire board up. So the whole reason I liked fairways yesterday, which we'll talk about this extensively when I bring up prize picks, was because the board was priced too low, right? They had everyone a solid like 1.5, 2 fairways too low. They've bumped the entire board up at least 1 fairway. Some of them have been bumped up 2.5 fairways. It's no longer the same bet. Right? If anything, I'd be taking unders over there for fairways now. But personally, I'm taking a look at birdies are better. So we'll talk about the exact guys I'm taking. But given the wind that we were looking at earlier, it's going to be a lot tougher here for Friday than it was for Thursday. You have a solid like 10-mile-an-hour higher winds. You're going to want to look at fades. I'll say that much here for Friday's round. Let's continue with DFS. We'll talk about prize picks later. Again, we do this at the end of these streams. We do the DFS side first. Going to try and stay on topic. Tom Hoagie here, $8,600. I'll be playing him. He's at the Quinta. He's at the quote unquote easiest golf course. He's about half as owned here for Showdown as he was for 4-round contest. So only 11.5%. He was between 18 to 22% for a lot of those 4-round contests. So in terms of getting that leverage, I think there's some value to be had there. And of course, Tom Hoge, one of the best iron players in the world over the last 6 months. And over the last 3 months, in fact, he is the best iron player in all of the world. And you saw that. He had plenty of solid iron shots yesterday. He was on a lot of the featured groups on ESPN Plus, so we got to see a lot of the shots he was hitting. He just couldn't buy a putt for his life. I mean, I had counted at least 4 misses from within 7 feet when it came to the putter. So the fact that he still shot -1 with all of those putting issues gives him a lot of room for improvement. So if he can go out there, just be a little bit more productive when it comes to the putting, I think you're looking at a big day for Hoge. Down towards the bottom of the 8K, Cameron Davis is the main guy I'm targeting here. We talked about it a little bit before, but he's going to be low owned because of the round yesterday and has all the firepower that we need. High birdie or better percentage player, is capable of taking advantage of the par fives, potentially even posting some eagles. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he shot 8 under par. It's just, it feels like it's a Cam Davis sort of day. We also have Taylor Pendrith, same exact idea. He's playing at the Nicklaus course, had a rough first day. So despite being on a solid course, right, the Nicklaus course was the easiest out of the 3. So you'd think that he'd be relatively high owned. Well, because he only shot -1, nobody wants to get to Pendy. And he's one of the more aggressive players in this range. So kind of similar to a Cameron Davis, you're looking at somebody that's got a ton of firepower to get it to 7-8 under par, just has to clean it up a little bit. So I have my eye on him. I think he's got a pretty good chance to go out there and do so. Thomas Dietrich, because he didn't have the best round, he only shot -3 there Thursday. His ownership has gone down a little bit since 4-round contest. He was closer to like 10 to 15% owned, a lot of the 4-round stuff. You have Will Gordon. He also just had a middling round, right? -4. It's not really standing out too much from the other players in this range. So I like getting to him. He's an aggressive player, kind of like a Davis, a Taylor Pendrith that we just talked about. We have a Wyndham Clark. It's just, it's going to sound extremely redundant here, guys. So I'm going to go through these quickly. But like Wyndham Clark, Davis Riley, aggressive players. They're low owned, right? They only shot -2. Not a ton of people are going to want to get there. And they have more than enough firepower. Going down a little bit further, you got Keith Mitchell. It's pretty much the same player. I mean, like I said, I'm going to sound like a broken record here if I talk about every single player. But Ben Griffin, the reason I like Ben Griffin here, he's playing the stadium course. He's like your ultimate pivot. He was 15% owned for 4-round contests, so he sucked in round 1. All of those 15%, they're not going to play him today. Like, they're going to be like, oh, Ben Griffin, he shot over par. Like, it's a birdie fest. You shoot over par, you're absolute dog shit, right? That's what a lot of those people are thinking. It's golf. It's volatile. Shit happens. Even the best players, like a Tiger Woods, are going to shoot 80 from time to time. So $7,400. Yeah, I'll take my shot on Ben Griffin, especially now that he's about 3-4 times less owned than he was just yesterday for those entire tournament events. Alex Smalley. Now, I think that he's going to get some ownership. I have him at 6%. That's not like he's unowned for this range. It's significantly higher ownership than a lot of the other guys, like nearly twice as much as a Ben Griffin, for example, nearly twice as much as a Keith Mitchell. But his ball striking looks like it's on point. I mean, you look at the recent form, you'll get an idea for why I really like Smalley here. So look at this. He missed the cut last time out, sure, but 5th, 4th, 11th, 52nd. You take a look at the recent form. So let's bring up good old Alex Smalley here. There you are. Look at this. He's gaining a bunch of strokes of the approach play, a bunch with the putter, and then right around a neutral off the tee, which you're okay with. He hits a good amount of fairways too. So $7,300. I do think that he will get some attention. Right? He's not going to be this super low one to pivot like some of the other guys that we've talked about. But I understand the play, and I'll definitely be there as well. Going into the bottom end of the 7s, you've got Nick Taylor going right back there. Had a very under the radar day, so he's going to be low owned pivot. You have Harris English. He's getting some attention, as he should. His metrics, if you guys looked at him when he first came back from the injury, I mean, he was absolutely spraying it off the tee, but he's starting to bring the approach numbers back to neutral. The off the tee numbers still have a lot of room for improvement to go, but the around the green and the putting is back to the old Harris English. He just has to bring these shots gained approach, the shots gained off the tee along with him, and then he's going to start winning again. Like, I mean, you guys remember, he won 3 times in a year and a half. And that was like a year and a half ago was his last win. I think a lot of people forget this about a Harris English. The guy's a madman. He's got a lot of volatility. He's got a lot of upside in him as well. So yeah, in Showdown, count me in. He's $7,200. He's an $8,000 golfer. He's like an $8,500 golfer when he's 100% healthy. So I'm more than okay eating 7% ownership. It's not like he's going to be 15% owned down there at the bottom of the 7K range. Oh, didn't mean to do that, boys. Let's catch up, see if there's any questions. We have a CB who says Justin Lauer. Good name for golf, but a good play in round two. Good question. Let's look at the stats. So anytime I haven't seen anyone play that much in round one, we're going to take a look at their stats. So let's see. Good old Justin Lauer. I know he started off rough because I had him in my player pool there, CB, and he started like +2 through the first hole. I believe he doubled the first hole. So it wasn't the best start. Yeah, he doubled the first hole and he made another 3 bogeys on the day. So he probably thought that he had a horrible day. Well, he still shot under par, still shot -1. So let's take a look at the actual stats now. So again, no shots gained because he wasn't on the stadium course, but he hit 10 out of 14 fairways. Okay, that's pretty average. He only hit 8 out of 18 greens. CB, I don't know, man. Yeah, like you said, good name for golf. Lower, whatever you want to call him. I'd probably call myself Lower, right? I wouldn't even use the real name Lauer at that point. Probably not the best play. He only hit 8 out of the 18 greens. That's going to be hard to reproduce, right? You go out there, you hit 8 greens again, he's shooting over par. So he's got to get that together. It's not impossible for him to turn it around, CB, but that's a little bit rough. That's one of the lower green regulation marks I've seen for quite some time. Colin says, still woke up. So you're way behind me. That's okay. So you still like Cam Davis with ownership and he's playing in the morning. Yeah. So the tee time isn't a huge factor for me. So I know you're probably at the win section right now. It might be like a 0.3, 0.4 shot advantage. We're taking the guys later on. So yeah, I think if you're breaking ties, you're trying to choose between 2 players. If one's going off early, one's going off later on, maybe you use that to break the tie. But you're going to have to play some of your round in those windy conditions anyways. So you're looking at maybe like 5-6 holes at most, probably closer to like only like 3 or 4 holes where the guys that are going off super late might have an advantage. Yeah, I'm still like him, but just, yeah, don't look into the weather too much. Like use it to make some of those tiebreakers, but I wouldn't avoid players just based on that alone. A says PP coming up. Yeah, that'll be at the end of the stream. So after we talk through all of the players for Showdown, we'll go into the prize picks board. Casey says, how's your Patreon run? Yeah, good question. It's a good time to plug it, actually. So on my Patreon, I post all of these spreadsheets. So if you're on the DFS side, you want access to all of this research to use in your optimizers. Obviously, the other tabs like recent form, all that are populated with all the research info that you need. That is posted on the Patreon page. For 4-run contest, I post all of my spreadsheets there. So everything you see on the videos, I post my props on there for prize picks. So as soon as I'm entering cards, I'm putting them on there so you can catch them before bumps. I post write-ups on there too, so I don't just post the props I'm taking. I post the research behind it. I look at the stats from the day before. I do an analytical look at what happened, post all of that for you. And then for every prop, I mean, there's a solid paragraph or 2 of information. So actually, I'll just show you. I'll just show you the post from round 1. I think it's a good way to give you an idea of what the Patreon's about. So let me bring up Patreon on the other tab here, and then I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. I do have to hide like some of the business side of things on here because like it shows like how many subs and how much money I'm making per month on here. So I gotta hide that. I don't need to show you guys how much I'm making there, right? That would be a little too much info. You guys don't need to know that. All right, let me share my screen. And it's not a bad thing, right? It's just like it's personal info, right? Like I don't think anyone would want to share that. Let's bring this up. So this is what the write-up looked like for round 1. So like this is for yesterday. So if you're looking for props, like there's a reason why I'm showing you the write-up for yesterday and not the write-up for today. You want the write-up for today? Join the Patreon, right? So on here, I post the weather. I post the different weather sites that we have. I post the stats from last year. We only had the stadium course on prize picks. So that's the course I decided to focus on. And then obviously those are the props that we played. They all ended up hitting. All 4 of those were green yesterday. Little write-ups for all of them, giving you guys the reasoning behind them and whatnot. And then towards the end, I also tell you how I'm entering the cards. So this wasn't the only card I entered, obviously. I entered a bunch of 2-man powers. So that's why I let you guys know down there with. So there's that. Obviously, I post some underdog stuff too. If you guys are into that, this one ended up going 4 for 5 yesterday. These were extra props I ended up entering. So sometimes I'll just like post extra props I'm entering. Like these were two of them. One of them hit. One of them ended up pushing on that end. Here's the DFS projections, that so on and so forth. You guys get the idea, right? It's not rocket science. That's how the Patreon works. It's $10 a month for my golf stuff, and you get all of that. So like whether you're on DFS or whether you're on Prize Picks, if you're playing both, it's the best value out there. But even if you're just playing DFS, or even if you're just going out there and playing Prize Picks, there's plenty of content out there for you guys. I make it well worth it, whether you're just doing one or the other, let alone both. Alrighty. Thank you, Casey. Clay says, thoughts on Callum Turan? Let's see. Let's look at his stats. Yeah, and CB, I see you're off of Lauer now. Yeah. Hey, he might shoot like 8 under par now, for all we know, CB. But yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time playing a guy that couldn't hit the greens, right? That's step number 1 to going low, right? Is putting yourself in position. So Callum Turan, bringing up his stats. He did not, actually, he did play the CM course. Good. So we actually get shots gained here for once. So he gained on approach. He lost with the putter. Yep, sign me up. I already have him in the pool. I was already playing Callum Turan, but after seeing those stats, you got to love him even more. Where's good old Callum Turan? There he is. $6,700, only 4.3% owned. Count me in. Like him even more based on the shots gained. And yeah, good call on that, CB. Oh, hey, I don't want to say good call, because if he shoots 7 under par, I'm going to be pretty pissed. I don't see it happening. Win says, you played a lot of KH Lee for week long. He was poo-poo yesterday. Bounce back, please. Sounds good to me. I think I have him in like 15% of lineups. So my 15% would like that. Bob says, for Telly after a rough day. Yeah, he made a bunch of birdies too. So he started off with a double. I think like a few other players in the field. And I think he may have ended up over par, but at one point he got it back under. Let's see. Yeah, actually, he may have actually got it under par by the end of the day. That would be extremely impressive. No, I can't find him on here now. Yeah, there he is. He shot +2. So yeah, he didn't get it under par, unfortunately. But he did make 5 birdies yesterday. Just unfortunately had a triple and a double bogey on the card. Bob, those are the exact kind of guys I'm looking for that are posting the production we need. They're making the putts, right? He still made 5 birdies, so he's still getting it done with the flat stick. You just can't double or triple bogey holes. So like, yeah, I like him. He can clean that up. We know he's a much better player than that long term. Appreciate that, CB. It's the standard golf projection package. Yeah, so if you just want the golf stuff, yeah, so it's the $10 package on there that says golf projections. That includes the DFS and the Prize Pick side. So yeah, perfect. And you said the combo and the NFL one. Yeah, so it depends. If you play NFL, like I post all of my NFL projections on there, both for Showdown and for main slates, and Prize Pick stuff for NFL. So if you're playing football, by all means, check out the combo package. That is both the golf and the NFL stuff together. But if you're just playing golf, then I'll just do the golf tier. It's cheaper to do the combo if you're playing both, but obviously if you're only playing golf, only do that sport. Bob says, cool, thanks for the explanation. Gotcha. And Brandon says, Xander or Patrick Cantlay. Ooh. So I'm assuming you mean for DFS. You may mean for Prize Picks, because I know they're matched. Actually, are they matched against each other for round 2? I don't play Birdie or Better matchups, if you can't tell. It's not something I'm looking at too much. They are matched against each other for round 2. So if you're talking DFS, I'm going to take Cantlay if I had to choose between the two. I don't love either. You can see I'm not playing either one, actually, between a Cantlay and Xander. But if it was for Prize Picks, I'd probably fade it. I probably just wouldn't bet it. I bet Cantlay yesterday, assuming that Xander might be a little bit injured. And then we know what ended up happening yesterday. So that's what I'll say there. It's close. If it's on DFS, Cantlay. If it's Prize Picks, probably fade it. Let's go through these value tier options. So we went through this 7K range. We left off right around, I believe here right around Dylan Fratelli, actually. So yeah, love him. He's only 0.4% owned. Made those 5 birdies yesterday. You have an Austin Eckroat, a Sebastian Munoz, who I especially love a Munoz. Kind of like a Fratelli. He made 5 birdies. He was able to go out there, put up that birdie production that you're looking for, just has to clean it up a little bit. So definitely on my radar. Eckroat, we know how well he played last week. So given that he was started off a little bit shaky, that's going to keep his ownership a little bit lower, and he still has all that upside. Steven Yeager, I love the fact that he's capable of going nuclear low. I mean, he shot 59 on tour before. On the Korn Ferry Tour, he has a few 60s, 61s out there. So he can be a little bit inconsistent, Jaeger bomb that is. but he's one of the few players that actually has the firepower to take this place nuclear low. You have Carl Juan. Well, I have to say this about Juan. This guy's an absolute freaking madman. We knew this coming out of the Corn Ferry Tour. If you guys remember, like the first event we had with all these new rookies, he was a value pick for me. I was like all over Carl Juan. And he started off like +8 his first event. And I was like, you know what? We're going to play Carl Juan again. I played him the next week, which I think was like Sanderson Farms or something like that. And he missed the cut. He shot like 82 the first day. So obviously after that, I was like, this guy just like making me look like a jabroni out here. So stop playing him. And now he's starting to go off again. He's starting to show us what he is over there in the Corn Ferry Tour. So I'm going to play him in Showdown. He's unbelievably volatile. So I'll just say that right now. He's playing the stadium course too, which is not good. If you're a volatile player playing on the stadium course, there could be a lot of water balls out there for you. But if he doesn't hit it in the water, like he's a gold mine when it comes to your fantasy production. I mean, let's look at his round one performance. I know he didn't even play that well yesterday, but let's just take. I'm sure he made a bunch of birdies. That's just kind of what he does. Like even when he's shooting like 4 or 5 over par, he's the sort of player that's. Let's see this. So he shot -2 and he made 4 birdies. That's probably the lowest amount of birdies that you're going to see from Juan the entire week. He's that sort of player. Just goes out there and nukes golf courses. So I like him at $7,000. You could take Aaron Rai. Aaron Rai is just underrated for his price tag. He's a much better player than a lot of his peers here. And just the ball striking was great. I believe he hit he was 83%. Yeah, 16 out of 18 greens yesterday. So just has to get it working with the flat stick, right? If you're going to hit 16 greens, you're going to have plenty of looks for birdie. Chesson Hadley, love him at a shorter track, especially one that prioritizes your putting. So $6,400 at La Quinta, which is more of a putting course than the other two, is something that I'm looking at. And so, yeah, I guess I'll mention this too. In terms of like your skill sets, at the stadium course, I'm pretty much all about your ball striking. At La Quinta and the Nicklaus course, it's a lot more about your putting. So, for these lower tier options, I'm kind of looking for the specialized putters at La Quinta because that's how you can get super low there. You have Taylor Moore, by the way, he's mispriced by about $1,000. I love him at 0.8%. Mark Hubbard, I am fading him over there on Prize Picks, so I will say that. But he played a little bit above his ceiling today. He made 6 birdies there in round one. Only shot 5 under par. So we'll talk about the birdie production here in a little bit. I don't hate him for Showdown though, right? He's low owned. He's only $6,800. So if I end up being wrong over there on Prize Picks, he could be a pretty damn good play for Showdown. We talked about Turan, Luke List, always worth taking shots on. He's +1 playing at La Quinta. You have Justin Lauer, who's actually in my pool. I know we were talking shit about him a little bit earlier, but if you're looking for a safe play, like don't play Justin Lauer. He hit 8 greens yesterday, but he hit only 8 greens, yet still made like 5 birdies. So like he's volatile. He's either going to shoot like -7, -8 today, CB, or he's going to shoot like 4 or 5 over. There's not going to be any sort of in between. I think this -1 that we saw in round one is especially strange. Like he was so close to ejecting himself from this event, yet so close to playing well that it's just a strange situation. Ryan Armour, I prefer over Justin Lauer. His ball striking a little bit more consistent, similarly aggressive player when it comes to the irons. You have Sam Ryder. He loves this golf course, just makes the cut here pretty much every time he plays. Ben Martin, one of the more aggressive players in the 6K range. When you look at opportunities gained going into the week, he was top 5 in both opportunities and top 10 in opportunities plus gained, which shows you how many birdie looks you're generating. So you like that for a Ben Martin. Garrick Higo is a momentum player. When Garrick Higo is playing well, you want to play him. You want to play him in bunches, jam him into lineups. When Garrick Higo is going sideways, you want to avoid him like the plague. So at this point, I will be playing a Garrick Higo, just hoping that he can maintain that momentum that he's created. Tyson Alexander, still only $6,500. Gotta like that. Malnati is going to be in my pool almost every time he's on a Showdown slate. So that's not really a surprise. He's one of the most aggressive players in the world. So not just like in the 6K range. Malnati's birdie or better percentage is borderline elite. It's just his bogey percentage is among the worst on the PGA Tour. Michael Kim looks pretty good. He's another momentum player. So kind of like a Garrick Higo. When Kim is playing well, you want to ride him. If you take a look at the Corn Ferry Tour playoffs last year, he got hot just before the postseason and ended up parlaying that into a PGA Tour card. I mean, we've seen Kim long time now, right? 5-6 years on the PGA Tour. We've seen him teeing it up. And whenever he goes into those 2-3 week stretches where he's playing well, he's capable of getting into contention every single week. So I know it's only 1 round sample size, but if that's a sign of things to come at a course that fits his game, he can not only get himself into contention, but could be an optimal play for Showdown. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, actually, no, one more play. Not it for the player pool. We also have Hank Lebioda down here, which he had an okay day, right? He shot -2. He's playing at the Nicklaus course. He's just mispriced. The only reason he's down here is because he was a late add to the field, because he went in for, well, I think it was Joel Damon, who he ended up coming in for because of the withdrawal. So $6,100, you're getting somebody that's probably like a $6,500, $6,600 golfer. So it's not like you're talking about him being like $1,000 too cheap or something along those lines, but cheap enough where, that $6,100, you insert him into a lineup, you can easily take two 10K options. You start a lineup with Hank Lebioda. If you wanted to take that Scotty, Tony Finau stack that I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's how you could accomplish that, right? By being able to take two 10K golfers can be a little bit tough to do, but not if you're taking a $6,100 golfer. So that's the utility there and what we're thinking on the DFS side. Let's see if there's any questions. If not, we're going to go into the prize pick stuff. So let's see what's going on. Where are we at? Most confident play for DFS. It's a good one. I haven't really thought that one through, so I don't really have it off the top of my head. Let's see what we've got. Probably Tom Kim. So it's not like I think he has the highest ceiling or has the highest floor, but considering ownership, price tag, all of those sort of factors, it's probably Tom Kim because he should be like 20% owned. And I have him at 11% right now. If you're just talking from like a pure point standpoint, so not considering ownership, it's Scotty. I think it has to be Scotty. He shot -4, had a bogey-free round with an ice cold putter. He just could not make a thing for his life. So it depends on, the context of the question, I suppose. But either a Scotty or a Tom Kim. Those are two of my favorite plays. Casey says, unfamiliar with the season of golf. Do we have much left or is it just starting? So actually just started. So golf is pretty much the entire year. There are a few little sections where there's going to be less golf going on. So during December, there's about a 3-week break, but we've already gone past that. And then between seasons, there's about a 2-3 week break. The next season, the next break for that is going to be in August. So from now until August, so the next 6, 7, I believe even 8 months of golf, we're going to have an event every single week. And that's not just worldwide. That's the PGA Tour event every single week. So Casey, if you're thinking about joining, it's the best time to join because we don't have a break for another 8 months. Absolutely good luck, CB. Catch out of there. Mark says cash core. Yeah, we'll do that right now. So before we go into the prize pick stuff, let's wrap up the Showdown side. Oh, share the wrong screen there. Sorry about that. Let's go through the cash plays before we hop into prize picks. So in terms of cash plays, I mean, probably Jon Rahm, but I don't think you have to play Jon Rahm up top. He is a little bit expensive at $10,600. In terms of your second man in, yeah, honestly, this is a weird Showdown slate, Mark. In terms of trying to find a core, it's probably just your top plays. So for me, I'd probably just go Scheffler, Tom Kim. So let me go ahead and add them in there. Let's put Scheffler, Tom Kim in there because there's not an obvious choice, at least in my opinion. In the 8K range, Sam Burns is not a horrible idea. Thigala is not a horrible idea. Let's go ahead and just put Thigala in there. Let's see. In the 7K range, you want somebody that's playing well, but also a good course fit. Smalley, honestly. Smalley for me is the ultimate play here in the 7K range. And let's give you one more. We'll give you 5 core cash picks. It's tough. Honestly, I think they'll probably leave it there because I don't think there's anyone else you have to have as a core. So this is what I would personally go with for a core, but it's not like a lot of these Showdown slates or even for a main slate where it's pretty obvious who the cash plays are going to be. I mean, up top, you wanted to play Jon Rahm. Totally understand it. Could get behind that. Just some sort of combination. I think the one guy that I would 100% play in cash would be a Tom Kim, would be in my cash lineup today. And Alex Smalley, just given the price tag, the recent form, the floor, all that sort of fun stuff, he's probably the guy that I'm jamming in. So I'll leave it at those two. But yeah, up top, just pick your favorite plays. If that's a Rahm, if that's a Cantlay, pick them. If that's a Scheffler like it is for me, that'll be good to go too. Joseph says, do you have stroke projections on Patreon or know where to find them? No, I do not. I do projections for DFS on there. I don't do stroke projections. You win. And if you're looking for them, there are betting sites. So BetMGM does them. They put up all the time. They put up stroke props, I believe, for every event, but don't quote me on that because I can't bet MGM, so I can't bring it up, that sort of thing. But I know on a lot of their sites, depending on what state you're in, they do post those lines. So if you're going to do research, Joseph, that's probably the best way to go about it, because they're not going to be wrong, right? They build the casinos. They make all that money. They know what they're doing. So I would use that. Yumin says, are you doing a round 3 show? I will be. I'll be doing that likely tomorrow morning, right around like 9 a.m. again. What's going on? Welcome in, Casey. Glad to have you. Let's go ahead and get into prize picks now, though, which I don't know, guys. The board here is not great, but there are a few props that I'm taking. So let's just go ahead and put them on the board. So Nate Lashley and Mark Hubbard under are the two props that I think have the highest hit rate for this slate. And the average for round 1 was 4.69 birdies or better. So way, way higher than usual. Typically, it's right around like 4.2 birdies around the American Express, around the stadium course. But that was with no wind. And I'll remind you guys, if you're just joining in now, the wind today is significantly higher than yesterday. And even for the guys in the afternoon, this 7 to 8 miles an hour of sustained winds, this 8 to 10 miles an hour of wind gusts is at least twice what it was yesterday. So we're going to see harder scoring. It's not like it's going to play over par, but rather than 2.5 strokes under, maybe the stadium course plays 2 strokes under. Maybe it plays 1.75 strokes under par like we've seen for the last few years. That's what I'm expecting. And when you take a look at this board over here, the average was 4.69 birdies. So you're projecting a Hubbard and Lashley more than the average yesterday, right here at 5 birdies, and with worse weather. And these guys, and I just have to say this, Hubbard and Lashley in this field are not better than your average player, right? They're like average at best when it comes to making birdies. So I'm projecting them for closer to like 4.2, 4.3 birdies on this slate. And the reason why I love them there at 5 is they bring you that push equity, right? If he gets to 5 birdies, so be it. It's a push. I don't care, right? It's like nothing happened out there for your card. Then get to 6 birdies, which both of them were able to do for round 1. And that's the only reason they're on the board here, by the way. The only reason you're even able to bet on a Lashley and a Hubbard here is because they had a really good first round. And despite the good conditions, despite them having ceiling rounds, getting themselves into contention, they only covered this prop by 1 birdie, right, under those easy conditions. So I'm always going to try and take advantage of prize picks overreacting. And for them to project a Hubbard and Lashley at the same level as like a Harmon, Post, and Griot, even a Jason Day, right, who's a fixture, somebody who's just been around PGA Tour for a long time, is a little bit blasphemous for me. They should be at 4.5 birdies. Like if I was building this board, posting projections, that sort of thing, they would be at 4.5 birdies. There'd be no doubt about it. So the fact that we're getting them at 5, definitely a solid under. And what I'm doing to make this payout the normal payout, you can see if you just took like the 2 unders here, it's only 2.5x. Is I went over here to Sebastian Munoz and I took the over. So they have Munoz against Rory Sabatini, and Munoz made 5 birdies in round 1. Sabatini only made 2. Munoz is the better player. Munoz also is a higher birdie percentage player, so he's more aggressive. He's just a better player in general. He played better in round 1, and he's also still live to make the cut, whereas Sabatini is 2 over par. So you could question his motivation, right? Is Sabatini still even like care at this point now that he's over par? He's worse. He's not as aggressive. Like every single metric that you look at is going to point you to play Sebastian Munoz. Now, that doesn't mean that this is a lock, right? So don't take what I'm saying and bend it the wrong way or anything like that. But it's by far the best birdie or better matchup that I see on the board. So taking those 2 unders, taking the Munoz over, and I ran with a 5-leg power play when it came to betting on that. Let's see if there's any questions down in chat. If not, we're going to hop on out of here. There's not. All right, cool. So that's all I've got for prize picks. I guess the one thing I'll say is that for strokes, it's a fair board. I think that they're all pretty much priced where they should be. If you were going to take anything, I would still take like an over on a Hubbard or a Lashley. If you don't want to take them for birdies or better, I think that's a good substitute. Up top, these guys like Willie Z and Cam Young, I project them for pretty much right at 68 strokes. And then over here for birdies or better, you could consider taking their unders, but like I don't have the stones to do that. Willie Z and Cameron Young could very well go out there and nuke the golf course like we saw with Sam Burns yesterday. They have that ball striking ability. They're aggressive enough players to go out there and do that sort of thing. So I'm just going to stick to these 3, right? Anytime I see a board and I think it's priced relatively fairly, I'm not going to be somebody to go out there and force in bets. There's going to be slates where I have like 10 to 15 props posted. There's going to be slates where there's only 2 or 3 props that I post. And a lot of it just comes down to what we have available. And here for Friday's round, it's not my favorite. You go over here to greens and regulation, the average is right around 12.5. So again, it's just, I think it's an appropriately priced board. I don't think they've done too much there. And with fairways hit, we did get a question about that before. They've completely ruined fairways hit, right? Like yesterday, the top guys on the board were at 9 fairways, and it wasn't at 9 until they got bumped up to that. Russell Knox, guys like Zach Johnson that were elite level accuracy drivers were a whole fairway lower than what they are here for Friday. So that value that I talked about during my video for round 1 isn't really there anymore. They've sucked it out of the board. They've, if anything, incentivized you to take unders. And an under I took was this Dean Burmeister one. I'll actually still add it on there. At 8.5 fairways, I still like the under. He only ended up hitting, I believe, 4 out of his 14 fairways in round 1. And that was still with shooting 7 under par. And that was also at a course with larger fairways than what you're going to have at the stadium course. So Dean Burmeister under 9 was the prop that I originally had. But even if you wanted to take under 8.5 and make it a 4-leg power play, I think that's more than viable. And yeah, that's probably the last prop I'll put on here. I mean, if you wanted to go ahead and make it a 5-man to try and make it like a 5-man flex, it's tough, honestly. I guess I'd probably fade somebody over here in strokes. Yeah, just maybe a Hubbard, maybe a Rye. These are the top 4 by far. I'm not going to force anything in, like I said. We'll stick it with those 4 there. But yeah, hopefully we can go out there and cash out again. Yesterday was extremely profitable, both for prize picks. Pretty good start for Showdown and DFS as well. Hopefully we can continue that here for tomorrow. So that's all I've got. Steven says, hope you feel better soon. Good luck. And yeah, fairways hit. It's just not what it was yesterday. Yesterday was a gold mine, but they priced it differently, unfortunately. But hey, birdie or better. A few props there that I like as a substitute. I think they got that prop wrong, that whole board wrong this time around. But that's all I've got, boys. Hit that like button before you hop on out of here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of the content in the future. Like somebody just asked before, we will be going live even throughout the weekend. So hopefully, I'm going to go to the doctor here. If you guys just joined in late, I do have to go to the doctor. I'm dealing with a little bit of a lung issue right now, but we will be live tomorrow. As long as it's not anything crazy, they tell me that's going on. We'll be live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. And then for Sunday, I'm assuming the same thing. We've got football going on Sunday, so no promises there. But obviously, I'll let you guys know tomorrow, right? I'm assuming we'll be live right around like 9, 10 a.m. there on Sunday. But looking forward to it. Make sure you join the Patreon if you guys aren't on there. If you want access to everything I have to offer before it goes live. Because today, we didn't have any bumps when it came to prize picks. But like 99% of the time when I post, there are bumps before I can bring them on here. So if you want all of those props, that's the best way to take care of it. See you, Nick. Appreciate all of that. And don't forget the Luca free square. Yeah, I actually ended up playing that with Lashley under. So hopefully that can cash out there too. Best of luck, everybody. And I will catch you guys for next time.